Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile AF, the podcast. This is episode 176 called Monica.
Hello, everybody. This is Allie and Blair, the co-founders of Fertility Rally, and we are here to tell you a little bit about who we are, what we do, and how we can support you on your infertility journey.
So we wanted to let you know that Fertility Rally is the membership group that we created. It's the place we wish we had when we were in the thick of it. We offer support groups. We have private Facebook groups. We have tons of events, lots of videos, blog posts, so much content. We're starting to do IRL events as well. And we want to be there for you no matter where you are on your journey.
Yeah, our favorite part, we had no idea where this would go when we started it. And our favorite part about it is watching all of our members, which is like 300 plus at this point, connect and create true lifelong friendships. We have members that are meeting up in real life. We have members that are supporting each other on Instagram. We have members that call each other best friends now. And honestly, like that is the most rewarding thing to see. We had no idea it would go here. And so we're inviting you to join the Rally fam.
Yeah, it's such a great space. It's a safe space. We also have fun when we can. So we would love for you to be a part of it. Check us out on fertilityrally.com and on Instagram at fertilityrally. Hope to see you guys soon.
Today's episode is presented by BELI. BELI offers modern prenatal vitamins optimized for fertility, prenatal, and post-pregnancy health. To learn more about how to optimize your fertility and pregnancy health, check out their vegan-friendly, dairy-free, non-GMO vitamins for both men and women at belibaby.com. That's spelled BELIBABY.com. The best part, if you use code ALLIE15, you'll get 15% off your first month of either BELI Women or BELI Men. Again, that's code ALLIE15, ALI15 for 15% off. Thanks, BELI. All right, guys. So today I'm talking to somebody who's become a very good friend of mine over the last year and a half or 2 years now. She's a Fertility Rally member. Her name is Monica. You guys might follow her on Instagram at Waiting for Baby Wonder with a U. She has just been through a shit ton, and she is a super bright light in our community. She comes to most of our support groups and cheers everybody on and shares what's going on with her. So she is still in the midst of her journey. She's going to tell us all about that. A couple interesting things that I haven't talked about on the show before. She's going to tell us about her uterus didelphys, and what that is, and her pelvic kidney and how those things, complicate pregnancy and complicate the infertility struggle. So she's going to talk about all that and so much more, but I'm going to let her tell it in her own words. So thanks, Monica. I love you, girl. Without further ado, this is Monica's infertility story. Oh my gosh, Monica. Hi, sweet girl. How are you? I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm so excited.
A while through Instagram and through Fertility Rally. You've been through so much, and just to put it out there right away, you're still in the middle of your journey and your story. So let's just start at the beginning. I know you have this diagnosis of uterus didelphys. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
And ectopic kidney. Is that what the other one is called?
That's also correct. Or like pelvic kidney. I mean, ectopic kidney. I think.
Okay. Tell me, let's start there. When did you find out that you had that, and what is that exactly?
So I found out about this in my early 20s at like a routine OBGYN PAP appointment. I had just switched doctors because my insurance changed after I graduated college, and went in just for my routine PAP. And I'm like on the table in the stirrups, and she's like down in my biz, and
in your biz,
in my biz, as they do. And she's just like, "Has anyone ever told you have 2 cervixes?" And I was like, "Come again?"
Mm-hmm.
What? And she's like, "Yeah, you have 2 cervixes." And I was like, "How have I been going to appointments this whole time and everybody has failed to mention that or didn't realize?" And she knew in like 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately, like there on the table, she was like, "Well, if you have 2 cervixes, there could be other things kind of like going on inside." And so she kind of like immediately was like, "Let's go into the ultrasound room." And
Wow.
she did an ultrasound, which was kind of amazing. Now that I've been through so many appointments and like been through so much, I realize how rare that is.
Mm-hmm.
But she was probably kind of excited because I guess this is not that normal.
Right. I'm sure.
Right. So we immediately went into the ultrasound room and she got me on the ultrasound. We did a pelvic ultrasound and she immediately saw what she thought to be 2 uteruses, which I didn't even know was a thing. And I think most people don't know. So uterus didelphys is like a doubling of your uterus. It can also be a doubling of your cervix and also of your like vaginal canal with like a vaginal septum, which I have all of those.
Okay. So do you know the statistics on that? Like what's the chance that someone will have that?
Well, I think it's not, not everybody knows that they have it. Some people, I didn't know, right? If I hadn't had that, right, I wouldn't have known. If I didn't have 2 cervixes, I might not have known. But I think it's about 1 in 1,000. So it's not like so rare.
Right.
But I think I have it on the rarer side where I have all 3.
Gotcha.
Right? So some people don't have all 3.
Right. Okay.
So I have that. And it's just like a congenital in the womb kind of deal. Basically, I guess when your uterus is formed, it actually kind of starts as 2 halves. And then like the middle part is supposed to go away and it forms like one whole. And that didn't happen in my development. Going along with that can also be renal, so kidney abnormalities. And she, again, I guess this was a really good doctor because so many doctors since were like, had no idea what to do with me. And she immediately was like, okay, you have this 2 uterus thing. We should look at your kidneys. And so again, right there on the table, she started looking for my kidneys, found the left one, and then went to go to the right. And there was just an empty space. And again, immediately knew, oh, well, sometimes with uterus didelphys, they can be in your pelvis. And so she went down and lo and behold, right next to my ovary was my kidney. And I had never, beyond the fact that tampons never used to work for me. Okay. Like I never would have known. I mean, it made so much sense when she told me because I just thought I had like the world's heaviest flow. Gotcha. Like all of my teenage years, and what teenager is going to be like, hey, hi, tampons don't work for me, or like talk about that sort of stuff.
Yes. Did it have, and I know you have endo as well. Did it have anything to do with endometriosis too? Is it all kind of tied together?
I think it is. Yeah. From what I've heard, people with uterus didelphys have a higher percentage chance of having endometriosis. And for sure, in my case, everything is kind of squashed into this lower right-hand corner because both of my uteruses are kind of tilted to the right. And then I've got my ovary and then I've got my kidney. So like everybody's all crammed in together. And so, if there's lesions, there's a lot for it to attach onto and connect to. Right there. So,
okay. So does this cause pain for you? It's a hot mess.
It's a hot mess. Yeah. Yes. I, growing up was the kid who was missing school, doubled over in pain, laying all day in the bath, throwing up, like diarrhea, the whole shebang, just really, really ill. And, everyone was just like, just being a woman. Right. It's just a bad period. Like it took 22 years for me to be diagnosed with.
Thank God that this amazing doctor figured it out. And I think even by talking about this now, you're going to be helping people that might, or, know somebody that's going through a similar thing and have it checked out.
I hope. I hope so. I mean, I've met lots of women now who have this, and everybody's situation was a little bit different, but I used to think before infertility when I didn't, because that was the one part that was missing, is along this road, nobody ever mentioned to me that any of this would bring complications from pregnancy.
Interesting.
So I really didn't know that until we started trying. And then I really didn't know how bad it was until we got to IVF. But, I used to think it was funny. When I first found out, I was like, double the pleasure.
Right.
Right. I got 2 vaginas. I thought it was hilarious.
What about sex? Did it have an effect on like painfulness or anything like that? And again, you don't have to say anything you don't want to say, of course.
I don't care. Yes and no. So one side is more dominant than the other. So like sex is fine. except for like, as my endometriosis has progressed, it's become more painful. So it didn't used to be, but I also don't know, like I have nothing to compare it to except my own body.
Right.
Like, do I think it's the most pleasurable thing ever? Like, no, I've never felt that way, but it wasn't painful. So, you know, there is a surgery I can have to at least get rid of the vaginal septum. And that is probably something that I will do when I finally can have a laparoscopy. I'll do that like all at once. And that should hopefully also help and also make my periods much more bearable because there's only one hole.
Okay. So, that makes sense. So you did a great post recently. We'll talk about this as we get into your story more, but you know, and you were holding up the letterboard that says infertility stole my sex drive. And that resonated so deeply with me and so many other people. The fact of when you're trying to have sex on demand or sex is not working and the pleasure is taken out of it. Like it's not talked about enough. So I'm really glad that you did that post and I'm excited to talk about that more in a few minutes, but let's fast forward a bit. Tell me how you met your husband.
So my husband is Australian. And
I love this. I know this story and I love this story.
I love this story.
It's so good.
So my husband and I both used to be travel agents back in the day where you used a travel agent. And we worked for a big multinational company. And so I worked in California and he worked in Melbourne, Australia. And we got picked to be part of, I mean, this is common in the travel industry world to go on trips to experience products that you would sell to customers. So we got picked to go on a Kentucky holidays trip, like bus tour across Europe with like 30 other travel agents from across the world.
Fun. And you're like in your 20s and like single and all that. Like, hell yeah.
Well, kind of single.
Okay.
That's another story.
Okay.
But we were very good.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so we met and I actually like really disliked him the first time. We got into an argument the first time.
I didn't know this part of the story. Why?
No. It was like some political conversation. There had been like an incident at my university and he had read about it, I guess, in Australia. And I had a very different perspective on it because I had been there and I didn't like the way the media was portraying it. And so we like got into this discussion. Turns out I'm right, of course.
Right, always.
And he would agree. But yeah, so at first it was like not, you know, but we obviously had banter back and forth with it, which I did enjoy. But very quickly, I mean, the trip was only a week and we became very inseparable very, very quickly. I just had so much fun with him and I just like loved the way his brain worked. And by the end of it, you know, it was like the whole like crying on the way to the airport. Like, what am I going to do now? Like we're leaving to other ends of the earth.
Right.
And it was only a week. And we didn't, like I said, we were kind of single. We didn't do anything because we were like trying to be good people. And we thought like, if this does ever amount to something, I don't want to start that way. So we left and I just really didn't know. And when I got home, you know, we kind of stayed in touch and through Skype.
Oh my God. Yes.
Within 2 weeks, we were both very single. And
tell me there was some dirty Skyping, please.
Of course there was dirty Skyping. Good. What are you supposed to do? And then, yeah, within like 2 weeks, he bought me a one-way ticket to Australia and I put in for a transfer from my job, which was approved. And within 3 months of us meeting each other, I moved to Australia and moved in with him.
So hot.
Away.
I love it.
We had never kissed before.
Oh my God.
And we moved in with him and his roommates.
Yes.
The rest is history.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that story.
Me too. It was really great because we had like this besides the dirty texting, this foundation of like communication for a few months before it got physical. So like, not that that's how it would have gone otherwise, but I think it made for a strong foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that's gotten you guys through all the shit that you would go on to do. So tell me about family building. Did you guys talk about having kids or did that come up in conversation?
Yeah. I mean, I'm the first to say I have like no career ambition whatsoever. I mean, like, I'll just be honest. Like, I think that's like taboo to say nowadays for women. I don't, it's gone the other direction. So I sometimes feel very uncomfortable saying that, but like,
no, I love that you say that.
My whole life, I've just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That's that's it for me. I am just drawn to children. I just want to be a mom. Like that's all I wanted. And everyone in my family knows. All of my friends were like, you're going to be the first to have babies. Like you're going to have so many. Of course, now I'm the only one without. And so that was always from the very beginning, what our situation was. And I actually left, like we bought our house. I left my job and like, that's, the decision we made because it was really important to us that one of us stayed home with our kids. I think because we both had that growing up, and I'm obviously coming from a place of immense privilege by being able to do that. So I acknowledge that, but that was our goal. So we worked towards that goal.
Right.
And of course, now I'm living in this house where like 2 of the spare bedrooms have been converted into offices and we have no baby. And it's like, why? We live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
We lived here for 5 years. And it's like, why?
Right.
Why are we here?
Right. So let's talk about when you guys started to try. Was there like a moment where you're like, let's do this? Or did you just kind of start to not use protection?
Yeah.
Or like, how did it go down?
Yeah. Well, so I was on birth control for, 800 years, like so many of us. We got married in 2015. We had this goal that we wanted to hike the Camino de Santiago across Spain. And
amazing.
That was it was the best thing ever. And so we decided that was in 2017. And so the deal was like, after that's done, I'm going to stop birth control. So that was at the end of 2017. So the beginning of 2018, around then is when I went off birth control. And for like a year, it was going to be the whole, we'll just have fun with it. And when we're not in a rush, but we would, if it happens, we would like that.
Right.
So we'll just like let my body come off the birth control, which is a whole other story. It was a disaster.
Was it because of the endo and everything else you had going on?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to like create like conspiracy theories because I know that a lot of like medical professionals would not agree with what I have to say on it. But I went into like, from like within a week of me being off birth control, I went into like a severe depression, started having panic attacks, which I had never had before. I was like shaky. I mean, maybe the worst time in my whole life for about 6 weeks. And every doctor was like, let me give you Prozac. Like, you're basically telling me I was crazy and that's not what birth control does. And like, we don't have to go into that, but that was my experience.
Yeah. Well, this is your truth. So there's no, you got to say what happened to you. This is your experience. And obviously this is not a medical show and, everybody's different and should check with their doctor, but that happened to you.
That's what happened to me. And it was, really scary for my husband. I like could not get out of bed. And I mean, it was frightening for me. It was frightening for my family. I was just not myself. And then it went away. And so, I don't know, but yeah, so we came off the birth control, wanted to give my body some time to adjust and nothing obviously ever happened.
Okay. So when did you know you wanted to see like an RE or a specialist?
So that wasn't actually until like 2020. So we actually started in 2019. We went to an MFM because maternal fetal medicine doctor, for anyone that knows, high risk OB, because of my uterus didelphys. I wanted to get some like more information. And she, highly regarded, just was like, oh, well, with your anatomy, like it's probably just going to take longer. So this whole like wait 6 months, let's do a year for you and do like more timed intercourse, like track your ovulation, like do it properly. And of course I just like listened to the medical professional as one does. Like advocacy for myself would not come until later.
Right. Were you feeling that clock ticking though? And like, how old were you at this point?
Of course. At this point, so 20, I was 31 at this point. They're almost 32, I guess. Yeah, 31. Yeah. And I had wanted to, you put stupid arbitrary numbers in your brain, but I had wanted to have like be pregnant with our first or have our first at 30. Like that just seemed like a good number. Yeah. Totally doesn't matter. But
no, I know, but that's your life goal. And that's okay to have those goals, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So 30 is what felt good. And that came and went. And so my anatomy is such that like I still have just the 2 ovaries and 2 fallopian tubes. It's just that one goes to each uterus. So when I ovulate every other month, it's a different uterus that can get pregnant, and you never know. Like, I don't know which one, and I can only use the one through intercourse, through sex. So like, I have half the number. Naturally, I already have half the opportunities that one would have per year, because we can only access the one side. So it's kind of like living with one ovary and one tube.
Okay. So knowing what you know now, Monica, do you wish that they would have given you that first, MFM you saw would have given you like a different treatment plan, or
100%?
Okay.
I mean,
what do you wish
my life
would have happened?
Would be totally different. I mean, first of all, she had no business okaying me to get pregnant in the first place. Now knowing what I know, because it would be detrimental to my health.
So
I cannot
at all,
carry a
you
child.
cannot carry.
At all, I cannot carry. I mean, I could, but I'd be putting my life in jeopardy and our baby's life in jeopardy. At all, I cannot carry a child because my pelvic kidney is in a location that putting weight on it would cause me to, at best, need a stent, but at worst, kill me or live a life where I am in kidney failure and would have to be on dialysis for the rest of my life.
Okay.
So she should never have cleared me to be trying naturally in the first place. And, she never should have been like, well, you've been casually trying for a year, try for another year at my age. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Is there part of you though that is grateful that you didn't get pregnant because it could have been detrimental? Or
absolutely, of course. I mean, it's complicated, right?
It's so complicated.
Of course, I'm happy that it didn't happen, but also I wish I would have had the knowledge earlier. Now knowing what I know about the fact that my eggs suck, that I could have saved years. I could have saved like 2 years of knowing that I needed to. IVF was always our option. That was our only option, always. So I could have known that like 2 years earlier.
Right. It's so frustrating.
Someone had cared.
And it is so complicated. And I don't mean to be like, what would you have done and living in the past? Because it's like, here we are now, right? There's nothing, but I was just curious, like what an alternative route could have been, also to help people who are listening.
Think it's just honest to be like, who lives in the present all the time? Nobody does. Like we try, but like, of course you think about the past. And it's annoying too, because of my anatomy and my kidney, I'd had so many pelvic ultrasounds done, right? But more than normal people would have had. And I remember specifically like my OB being like, great, you have follicles. Like you've got 6 follicles. Great. Moving on. I was like, oh, I got follicles. Okay, good. Like things are working down there. Like I didn't know 6 was bad. And he didn't tell me 6 was bad.
Gotcha.
Like, there's also, I guess, an opportunity there for like, where's that, like the connection between like you're an OBGYN, but like the fertility aspect, right?
Right.
Like, he could see on the ultrasound if he knew to think of it that like there was a problem.
Right. Such a good point. Okay. So what happened next and what did you guys do?
So I tried for a year. We tried for a year and nothing happened. So that was 2019. And this brings us to 2020, I think around May or June of 2020. And I went back to the MFM and I was like, listen, this is not working. I need somebody to take more of an interest. And I kind of, at that point, so my dad and his wife went through IVF. And I like through them kind of like learned a little bit, and I knew I needed to ask for a fertility panel. So I kind of bullied my OBGYN into ordering, I definitely got the whole, you're young, you have time, like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Just go on vacation. So,
yeah. Oh my, I mean, I've heard,
you've heard it all.
I've heard it all. I've heard it all.
Yeah. 100%.
Just get drunk, you'll get pregnant.
Right. What was it like going through it when your dad and his wife were?
It was really hard.
Did you and her talk about it at all?
No. So I didn't know like what I suspected what was going on, but they never told us. Like our relationship is very different now than it was then surrounding this. I would like open the fridge at their house and like see stuff in the fridge and be like, I don't know what that is. Turns out it was like Menopur. Right. And I had no idea. And they did not tell us. I had no idea. I didn't know they had several losses. I didn't know she has endo. I didn't know like she had surgeries. I didn't know. I didn't know anything until she was pregnant. And it stuck. And that's just the way that they chose to deal with it. I think that probably now they would have chosen to do it differently because it caused a lot of pain for me. It's hard to contend with like your dad having another baby at the age where you're supposed to be having a baby and you're trying to have a child.
Right. Yeah.
At the same time, in looking back, I'm so grateful to them because I would not probably, be with my doctor now. So Dr. Amy, who's my doctor.
Did they go to Dr. Amy too?
Yes.
Get out. Okay.
So
awesome.
My baby sister is a product of the egg whisperer.
Yes. Shout out to Dr. Amy. We talk about her
always shout
incessantly.
Out. She knows I'm her biggest fan.
Yes. You guys are best
everyone
friends.
Will say that.
And we've got a lot of members who go to Dr. Amy, and we've done a lot of stuff with her at Fertility Rally too. She's great.
She's awesome. But yeah, I would not have known about her. I was actually at a different clinic when we started. And so back up for a sec. I did the fertility panel. The fertility panel came back all sorts of fucked up. My FSH, I think at the time was like 27 or 29, like postmenopausal. And my AMH was like 0.54, something like that. 0.54, I think it was.
Okay.
And so obviously immediate red flags. And I like freaked out because you get these numbers over some portal with nobody calling to tell you anything. Right. And all I see is like, it's flagged red. And like, I start Googling Dr. Google and they're like, are you, this number is like, if you're in menopause, and I'm 32, I think, 32.
So there was nobody there to explain this to you.
No.
Were they just thinking like, we're just going to send her the results and like,
I just think that nobody thinks like they eventually I got into contact with them, but I think I called to like schedule a consult with my OB to be like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah. Once again, advocating for yourself, right?
Right. I mean, I've had so many weird illnesses over the years. You'd think I would have been a pro at that point, but I really wasn't. But yeah, so I contacted them and he gave me kind of a list of a few doctors, and I did some research myself of like who I should see. And I ended up at a different clinic. And it was fine. I actually started the process and even signed paperwork to start IVF with them. But at the very first appointment, the doctor said to me, he's like, I will make you a mother. I can guarantee you will be a parent, but I can't guarantee they will be biologically related to you.
Okay.
So, that's
how did that make you feel to hear that?
Well, devastated. I mean, now it's different now knowing what I know, but I think in your very first appointment to be hit with that in 5 minutes of someone meeting you, it's a lot to take in. Like I was already extremely overwhelmed. I wasn't ready to receive that news. And I think now looking back on it, it was a little bit premature to just say that to somebody. Like, how about have a little, like, either don't help me or help me. And if you think you can help me, then like, let's not go there at the first appointment. Why are we talking about that at the first appointment? If you think you can help me, what it told me now looking back is he wasn't confident that he could help me. Well,
I also feel like it's dangerous as a doctor to say, I guarantee anything. I mean, that's just false expectations. And that's not how it is. I mean, we all know IVF is not a guarantee. Surrogacy, which we'll get into, is not a guarantee. Adoption is not a guarantee.
None of this is guaranteed.
None of this is guaranteed.
It doesn't. Yeah. And I stepped into IVF totally thinking like, well, this is the answer. And I've stepped into multiple stages of this journey thinking, well, this is the answer. And I've
said this so many times.
Awakenings.
I'll probably cut this, but in case anybody's new, I thought IVF was for people that wanted multiples. Like I was like, oh, Octomom. Yeah. Like I thought it was like an optional like thing if you wanted more than one kid.
Like old rich ladies who like wanted to have their careers first.
Right.
And like freeze their eggs and then like have children when it's convenient.
Right.
Like, totally. That's what I thought it was too.
Yeah,
like
totally.
I just didn't realize, we don't learn about fertility at all at any point in our lives other than once you're already faced with it. So, exactly. I mean, I just was like, people have eggs, they do their thing, you get pregnant, and
Absolutely.
your biggest fear in life should be getting pregnant when you don't want to be pregnant.
That's
should
what's
be your biggest
drilled into
fear.
our heads is if you don't use protection, you're going to get pregnant. That's all you learn as a young
Turns
woman.
out 12 years of birth control was completely pointless for me. It was never probably going to happen. So I started there, and I kind of started open. At this point, my dad's wife had just had their baby. She had a COVID baby. So this in April. So this was like a month later. And at this point I knew kind of more of what they've been going through. So I was really leaning on them for like emotional support. And I told my stepmom, like I say my dad's wife usually, because she's like 9 years older than me, but my stepmom, I told her that, about my appointment. She was just like, listen, if you don't like this, there are other options. Like you don't have to because this was like, we went from like blood work to consult to we're signing documents probably in the span of 2 weeks. Once I knew, that's kind of who I am. I was like, let's go. Like, let's go. We're going. Like we're doing this. And she was like, please let me write an email to my doctor. And she's like, they call her the egg whisperer. And I was like, what do you mean they call her? Who calls her the egg whisperer? How ridiculous. Right. Now I don't feel that way at all. Right. And now I understand now. But I was like, okay. She's like, as long as you don't think it would be weird that we'd have the same doctor. I was like, listen, if it's better, it's better. So she wrote this email to Dr. Amy and CC'd me on it and kind of just laid out what we'd been through. And Dr. Amy just wrote back like the most amazing email in 5 seconds, as she always does. And she just said, I'm happy to do whatever it is that you need me to do. If you want to become my patient, that's great. If you want me to just consult with you on the side, that's great too. If you want me to I'll be your biggest cheerleader. Like there's no ego involved. Right. Like
she truly just wants to help people. Yeah.
Truly just wants to help people. And she didn't need to be my doctor to offer that kind of support. And the fact that she like responded so quickly, we had this family connection and that kind of warmth, I was just like, this is my person. So I pivoted, made a consult appointment with her. I think like within like 5 days, like we were so fast, and we did a Zoom appointment and she's like, come in on day 2. I came in on day 2 and we started stims like that.
Okay. So what was her take on what was going on with your uterus, your uteri, and your, everything else that was happening?
So initially that wasn't something that she focused on. Okay. Right. I have issues. To get to my uterus being an issue, we have to have embryos. Right. Okay. So first things first, her protocol always is embryo creation, like bank embryos. So we already knew that was going to be an issue for me because I have few follicles and my hormones are showing that my egg quality is probably compromised as well.
But at this point, sorry to interrupt, Monica, but did you know that you were going to work with a gestational carrier because you couldn't carry, or no? Okay.
No, I did not know this until after we created our embryos.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that wasn't discussed. Like how the babies are coming into the world, like not discussed. Like,
right. It's like one step at a time. Okay.
One step at a time. Because what's the point of talking about gestational surrogacy if you don't have any embryos, right? Yeah. So first and foremost was the creation of embryos. Okay. And, she obviously was interested in my uterus. It turns out the uterus didelphys is less of an interest in this whole story, which I find interesting. Yeah. It's the kidney that continues to be the kicker.
Gotcha.
So
fucking kidney.
And of course, like I wanted it removed, but evidently that's not an option either. So we started with IVF like very quickly. I can give you all the stats, but essentially we retrieved 6 eggs, 4 fertilized, and they all arrested. Like nothing past fertilization.
Okay.
And that was, I guess, like my really like my first moment. Like this is not a guarantee. This is going to be much more challenging than I thought, much more expensive than I thought. It was definitely a reality check. I mean, this was before I made my Instagram account. And so I was really, really lonely. I really didn't have anyone to turn to except for my stepmom. And now I'm feeling like, well, fuck you, lady. Like, you're 10 years older than me and you did one round of IVF and made all of your embryos.
Right.
Like, what the fuck? I can't make any. And, I leaned on them for so much, but.
Right. Today's episode is brought to you by Sugar Break, the first natural, non-prescription support system that empowers you to reduce your sugar intake and manage healthy blood sugar levels so that you can live your best life. Their products are made with natural ingredients that have been scientifically tested in over 20 clinical studies and are proven to curb sugar cravings and promote healthy blood sugar management. All Sugar Break products are gluten-free and allergen-free, and their adult line is vegan. Sugar Break is backed by a world-class scientific advisory team, including an endocrinologist, the head of eating and weight disorders at Mount Sinai, a sugar addiction expert, a registered dietitian, a pediatric specialist, and more. So, of course, before endorsing these products, I had to try them myself, and I have to tell you guys about Reduce, which is one of Sugar Break's products. So Reduce is a good thing to try if you are suffering from PCOS, if you struggle with insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome, if you have a family history of diabetes, or you're just looking to maintain healthy blood sugar levels for your overall health. So I'm guessing that if you're listening to this podcast right now, you are interested in a healthy lifestyle. And I will tell you a little bit more about a couple of their other products. So they have Stabilize, which helps block the absorption of sugars and carbs. They have Reduce, which I was just talking about, which helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels. And they have Resist, which helps block the sweet taste in all foods. All right, guys. So if you are interested in trying Sugar Break, which I do believe you should, go to sugarbreak.com and use my special code, which is Infertile AF, and you'll get 20% off your entire order. Again, go to sugarbreak.com, use code Infertile AF, and you'll get 20% off. Thanks, Sugar Break.
Yeah, I mean, I would say.
But what about you and your husband? Like, what was going on with you guys and your relationship? Because obviously this takes such a huge toll.
It really does. I mean, I hate to say this, but like, I get grateful for COVID. Like, I, of course, don't, because it's caused, terrible things to happen across the world. But in my life, my husband traveled for work like every week before COVID, and I was alone a lot. And COVID caused us to be together all the time. And I am so grateful for that, because we were really able to be together during this process. And he's just incredibly supportive, not judgmental at all, like no room for blame or guilt or anything. And, I think the biggest hardship really is that he just like worries about me so much.
Yeah.
So, he's just incredibly worried about my mental health, my physical health, all the time. And I think it really weighs on him. I feel like he doesn't leave as much room as I would like to feel for himself. Because I know it's there, but it's like primarily goes to me, because I'm the one that's like enduring all of the medical stuff, and I'm the one with the health issues, and I'm, so yeah, I mean, it's really hard in a marriage, but actually, like, I know this isn't the same, everybody's different, but I think we're closer as a result of it. I think that's made our marriage like more intimate in a lot of ways, like seeing each other at our worst, going through real hardship.
Right. That makes sense.
It's a test of your marriage. And like, I think we're stronger for it in the long run. Yeah. Not that I would trade it in a heart.
100%. 100%.
But
right.
But yeah, I think we're stronger because.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So then after that first round with Dr. Amy, what did you guys do? Did you decide to pivot, like change the protocol or like?
Yeah. So, I mean, Dr. Amy, if it doesn't work, she's going to pivot, which I love, right? Like, I've heard so many people nowadays, or not nowadays, but like now that I've met so many people whose doctors just like stick to what they know. And like, that's just what it is. Like, if you don't like my protocol, then you're not working with me, which I think is ridiculous, because our bodies are so different.
Makes no fucking sense.
Makes no fucking sense. And it's really like offensive to me.
Well, it's also kind of lazy.
Super lazy. Like, and this science is developing still. Like, we're not like at a point where like we have the answer. So like, this is what it is. Like, it's changing all of the time. Like, our standards for testing embryos are changing. Like, our knowledge of disease, like all of it is changing all of the time. So like, why wouldn't you want to, if this is your profession and your life and you're helping families grow, like, why wouldn't you want to be like at the top, like learning and figuring out new ways and collaborating with other professionals and doctors? Like, it makes no sense to me.
Right. I agree.
But Dr. Amy does. She loves new research and learning about everything. And so our way of looking at it was like, we're going to do it again. We're going to change the protocol. And also I like gobbled up. It starts with the egg, like so many of us have. And I was like, I'm going to do everything that's in this. I'm going to do all of it. I'm going to take every single pill. I'm going to go to acupuncture twice a week. I'm going to get rid of any toxins in my house. I'm going to get rid of any plastics in my house. I'm going to meditate and be mindful and like, just like commit my life to this. And I'm very fortunate in the sense that I don't work. So like, I could do that. So that's what we did for, I think, so my retrieval was in August of 2020 and my next retrieval wasn't until November of 2020. And in that time, I just was very, very regimented. And we also primed with Omnitrope, with human growth hormone, twice a week during that time. I don't think I would have gone. I think we would have had our retrieval in October, but I had a cyst at one point. So I don't think that maybe I needed quite as much time in between, but that's what ended up happening. And we had fewer follicles, actually. We only had 5 follicles and retrieved 5 eggs, but all 5 of them made it to blast, which was like night and day, and 3 of them were normal. So those were our embryos, which was wild. I mean, and then you get that false sense of, okay, like we're off to the races. Like now we have our embryos. That was our hurdle. Like, we're going to do this. I know that like uterus didelphys is a high risk pregnancy situation, but like I've seen other women do it. We're going to do it. And I just was like, cool, transfers next. And then Dr. Amy was like, I think we need to talk about your kidney.
Right. Okay.
And that was the first time that gestational surrogacy was broached.
Okay.
And that was like a whole other pill to swallow. And I was not accepting of it at first at all. I was like, no. Like, we're going to go see other specialists before we just decide that I can't carry my baby.
So like, specifically, what were
enough?
Right. Tell me again, what were the risks if you did carry? It was because your kidney. Yeah. Can you explain it again?
Yeah, sure. So according to Dr. Amy, and then confirmed by a urologist, my kidney is in a location. So it's it's in my pelvis, like where my right ovary is. As the weight of a pregnancy would grow, the weight would press down on that kidney and my ureter, my bladder, and could cause like serious kidney problems, essentially. So, a stent, which is not, I guess, the most uncommon thing, could have to be put in. But basically the urologist was like, if you were in extreme pain, I would not be able to relieve the pain for you. Okay. And then worst case scenario, it causes me to go into, or like not even worst case scenario, but I could go into kidney failure and require dialysis for the rest of my life, which is obviously not something I would like to do. Right. And like worst case scenario, like I could die, baby could die. Right. And we were already talking about a high risk situation with my uteruses because there's 2, they're smaller. And oftentimes with uterus didelphys, the risks there are like preterm labor, late term miscarriage, stillbirth, and then always the C-section, because how are you dilating 2 cervixes? Right. That makes perfect sense. It just was ultimately too high of a risk. It was to even consider. And at first it was really hard for me to like know that we were never going to be the couple that had the experience of being pregnant together. Like my husband always used to talk, I can't wait for me to be able to put my head on your belly. Like I can't wait for these moments together. And
totally.
And so those are lost to us. And it's still, I mean, I'm much more at peace with it now, but that, that was a huge loss. Like now we can't get pregnant naturally. Now we can't even have pregnancy at all.
Yeah.
But
that's definitely a loss, the loss of how you thought your life was going to go. That's a huge loss.
Right. And we had already lost so much. And now we're just adding this to the list of losses. Like we already knew we couldn't make embryos, we couldn't get pregnant naturally. We knew that if I already knew that I was going to lose a vaginal birth, which was really hard for me as well. I knew that, going into it, knowing I'm going to be cut open at the end of this, and I'm not going to be able to go through the natural birthing process, which was something I always envisioned. I'm like a proponent of natural birth. Like I wanted to do that. Like I wanted to go through that and be like, I am woman. And now it's, not important. It's, just a happy, healthy baby is all I care about, but
totally,
it's still a loss. And though at the same time, once it was decided, it was like, okay, that's just how I am. I was like, okay, that's what we're doing. And it was easier to make that decision knowing it was the only decision. It wasn't a question. It wasn't, surrogacy, women go into surrogacy for many reasons, but I have encountered, individuals where it was a choice in the sense that we don't really know why your embryos aren't implanting, but you've had, multiple implantation failures or multiple miscarriages. And so that's the choice that we're making. We don't know why it's not working, but we're going to pivot because that's what's been happening.
Right.
It was easier to accept because it really wasn't a choice anymore. It was like, this is what it is. Like, this is our option. So if we want to bring these embryos into the world, this is how they're going to have to come to
be. Exactly. Okay. So what happened next?
Dr. Amy is so fast. She's so amazing. I was not left for even a moment to figure out what to do next. She was like, let me put you in touch with these agencies that I like working with. You can interview all of them, see how you feel. Here's a list of questions that I would recommend that you ask.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And she made the introductions. I didn't have to do any cold calling or anything like that. She gave them our story. They had that already. So the process was really fast. I think right around my birthday in December of 2020 is when we started reaching out to agencies, and literally by Christmas, we were matched with a surrogate. It was really, really fast. And I don't think that's the case for a lot of women. I mean, it depends on the route that you're going, whether you're going to go via an agency or independently. So with a family member or a friend, or nowadays someone you meet on the internet, which they're just two different paths, two different processes. We opted to do the agency partially, it was a whole new language to learn. I didn't know anything about surrogacy. I didn't know any of the lingo. I was really following Dr. Amy's lead. So I just let her kind of take the lead there, and surrogacy through an agency made a lot of sense because if I'm not an expert, I don't need to be taking that on. Now I feel like I could write a book on surrogacy and
totally
have my own agency if I needed to.
Exactly.
But so we went through an agency and in Idaho. That was another thing that was really hard for me to deal with, was the idea that our surrogate would be out of state. There's a lot of different reasons for that, but for us, it's mainly financial. California, it's just surrogates are in such high demand here. It's really hard to get matched. The timeline is longer, and I'm not a patient person. And the finances are just out of control. Partially because there's a lot of demand here because California is a very surrogate friendly state in terms of the legalities. So Idaho is as well, but in a different way. So we opted to go with the agency in Idaho. We were matched very quickly. So the next step basically you have conversations with the agency, and then they tell you what surrogates they have available. Normally, I guess I would say, well, these ones are the ones I'm interested in. Dr. Amy was like, these are the ones we're interested in. These are the ones to talk to. And then you have a conversation, you decide if you want to move ahead, and then you're matched. From there, you do what's called medical clearance. So the gestational carrier goes under, they're not pre-tested for like a lot of things. They're tested for like, what's your BMI and have you had successful pregnancies and were any of them like complicated and, you know, basic stuff. But through your clinic, you go through medical clearance. So usually like a saline sonogram, blood work are like the main ones. And so you have to wait for those to happen. And then once you have medical clearance from your clinic to begin, like all parties involved, including the intended parents, which are myself and my husband, you do blood testing as well to check for infectious diseases. Like that's the legal protocol.
Right.
And then you move into contracts. So legal contracts. And then from there, then you would, once that's signed and you do your psych eval as well, then you can start the actual process of getting to a transfer and like start medication. So it's a long and involved process.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean, I'm
so
sure
much.
you know about this, but for anyone listening,
no, I know we could do a whole nother hour plus on just this alone. Okay, so you've been matched. It's amazing.
We've been matched. We start medical clearance, and this is a 2-time proven surrogate who's cared for 2 other families besides having her own children. Slam dunk, you would think. And then they go and do the saline sonogram and they find scarring from her previous C-section, like a scarring defect that is such that it's like not something that can be fixed. And she's basically immediately precluded from ever being a surrogate for anyone.
What a blow. Again. Another blow.
Another blow. So that was in January of 2021. And like, again, you know, it's like, oh, IVF, it's going to be the answer. Surrogacy, we're going to take my stupid body out of the equation.
Right.
And we're going to put in like a perfect, fertile human being.
Right.
And of course it's going to work. And like, of course it didn't work. And so now I'm like, okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Now it's just a lot of money, which is really hard.
Yeah. So were you matched up with another one?
It took a while. So, I mean, with COVID, there's not as many surrogates available. Partially, I mean, this is pre-vaccine era. So a lot of surrogates, you know, are waiting it out, don't want to put their families at risk. And surrogacy has just become, I think, as people talk about it more and people realize that, you know, while incredibly expensive, it's not just for like movie stars or people that like want to save their bodies. Like that's such a misconception as people learn about it. I think it's become, you know, if you look at the stats of how many babies in the US are birthed via surrogacy every year, it's grown exponentially over the last few years. I mean, it's still a teeny, tiny little population. I think they say 2% of babies born in the United States are born via IVF. And of that 2%, it's like 2% of babies are born via gestational surrogacy. So it's a really, really small little population of people, but it is growing. So it's just hard to find a surrogate. So I think it took us, like 5 months to be matched again through our agency. And in the meantime, we did entertain an independent match as well through another proven surrogate who also ended up failing medical clearance for other issues.
Oh my gosh.
So now then we had our third match in May of 2021. And again, another 2-time proven surrogate. We really, really clicked. And like 5 days after we matched, before she even started medical clearance, she ended up in the hospital with like extreme pain. And they found like retained tissue from her previous pregnancy. She had to have a DNC. And so that took her off the list.
Oh my God, Monica.
I know. It's like almost, if it wasn't so, it's almost comical at this point. Like it's almost comical.
I know what you're saying. And sometimes you do have to just laugh
like,
at the absurdity of this shit, but like,
it's fucking
This is also just like seeing you go, because, I know you at this point in your journey, that you're talking about now, and, just seeing you go through this and setback after setback and just doing all the things. And it's just like, it's not fucking fair.
No, it's
like,
not fucking
that's
fair.
how it feels at a certain point, right?
I don't like talking about the money because I feel extremely privileged that we've been able to come this far, when I know that that's not the case. For so many women don't even have the option to find a surrogate because the price of it is just not it's just not possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say at this point, we spent over $100,000 and we have nothing to show for it.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's important to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the reality of infertility, is like,
right.
And at this point for us, it's like, we just keep throwing money at it because we're so far in. I just don't know how to stop. And it's like, we'll just keep going as long as we can keep going. But like, we've refinanced our house. Like we've had some family support. Like we've set all our savings.
Right.
We've taken out like my husband's stock options from work. Like that's how we're paying for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not without its hardships, and we're able to do it, but it's still like a hardship.
Yeah, totally.
So we got matched with our current surrogate in July, late July, 2021.
Okay. So this is number 4.
This is number 4.
Okay. Fourth time's a charm.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
Right.
She's wonderful. I love her as a person. So I'm really hopeful that we get to go on this journey together.
Yeah.
But so we met through the agency. She was wonderful. We clicked, all of that, and then kind of radio silence. And I was like, what is happening? And it turned out her house burnt down right after we talked. Like burnt down. Like their whole home burnt to the ground. I know.
Unreal.
I was like, am I cursed? Like, am I cursed? Am I like doing this to these women? Like, maybe I should like just give up, because I'm like now causing other people harm.
No, you're not. But I know
that's ridiculous.
It makes sense to think that, of course. Yeah.
But eventually we did get back on track. She's like, I mean, if anything, her going through that proved to me like, this is who we want to work with, because she handled it just like, I got this. I'm organized. We're on top of it. It's hard, but I'm not going to like, let it, we're safe. We're healthy. Like we're doing this and building a new house. And she just handled it with so much grace and poise.
Right.
And
you're like, okay, you're a badass.
Okay. Yeah. She's a badass with her 4 children.
Right. Okay.
So we continued on. Medical clearance actually was medical clearance. She was approved. So excited. We signed contracts, I think on New Year's Eve, literally 2021, and went into 2022 just so hopeful. It felt like, okay, this is our moment. Like we have top rated, genetically tested embryos. We have a proven surrogate who has no issues. She's ready to go. We're ready to go with the best doctor. We had our transfer protocol in place. She'd been on that. So Dr. Amy was actually her doctor for her previous journey as well. So she knew Dr. Amy already.
Right.
Dr. Amy already knew her body. Like, perfect. Let's do this. And we transferred on February 9th, and it didn't work. Like not even, and just like no implantation at all.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. I was broken. I think you've seen me. I mean, I was broken. I'm still, I don't know. Like I have our embryo picture, and I like it's shoved somewhere because I can't even look at it.
Can't look at it. Yeah.
I can't look at it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was just like, it's still like, I'm okay, but I'm not okay.
No, that's like, that's understandable.
We waited so long to get to that point.
Right.
So long to get to that point. And we've been through so much. And I really thought it was going to work. Like everything was perfect. I really thought it was going to work. Like I was not stressed at all during our 2-week wait. I was really excited. And I think it broke, I think it was pretty devastating for our surrogate as well. Because now you're dealing with the emotions of 2 families.
Right.
Which is a lot, because I want to take care of her. And I don't want her to leave us, right? I don't want her to leave us.
Right. Yeah. Oh.
Like, is she going to go through this again with us?
Right.
So that's a choice. She doesn't have to.
Right. Of course.
And that was just, I didn't even know like what to do with myself. And not that it matters at all, but it doesn't matter. But it was our only female embryo, like our only XX embryo. And it doesn't matter at all, but you start to like think of them as people.
Yes, of course.
I don't care. Like, I just want a healthy baby, but like, I guess just knowing you never, I guess when you're trying naturally, you don't know what you're going to get. Right. It's just whatever you're going to get.
Right.
It's just like, that chapter.
Right.
Kind of
but I want to validate that for you, that it's okay to grieve the loss of that female embryo. That is real. And that is sad. And that fucking sucks. And it's okay to think that way.
I have a hard time feeling about that because like gender is whatever. And I also I really don't care. And I don't ever want our story to be that was something I cared about, because it's not important, but it isn't, like you said, it is important.
Well, it's complicated too. It's not black or white.
It's really complicated. Yeah. It's not. It's really complicated.
And it's, you have to feel your feels. And if that's how you feel, it's not like that's going to be the defining moment of you cared about that, but it's like, yes, that's part of your story.
I cared about our loss. Yeah. I mean,
of course. Yeah.
And so, we immediately jumped, my frustration was I had considered, do we do implantation testing before we would do our transfer? If it had been me, if I had been the one carrying, I would have never allowed myself to transfer prior to doing these tests. Never in a million years. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Amy would have never allowed me to transfer without doing those tests either. But she carried before. She carried for Dr. Amy, same protocol. Like, there was nothing to suggest scientifically, medically, that those tests were necessary.
Right.
And it's really expensive. Right. Sure. I hate that money comes into this, but like,
it does.
You think
plays a role.
You think of doing an ERA, which is one thing, but then you have to pay her clinic and your clinic to do the ERA because she's doing it in Idaho. And then you have to pay her to do the ERA. Mm-hmm. So every single thing that we do costs sometimes 2-3 times more than what it would cost anyone else. Like, our transfer cost us, I'll just be frank, $16,000 to do one transfer. Yeah. So it is something that we considered, and it wasn't medically deemed necessary. So we didn't do it. And of course, now I live with regret every day because we've now done the ERA and the MLS and the receptiva test, and every single one of them came back abnormal. Mm-hmm. So abnormal that the labs actually suggested that we run them again. Mm. So we have to do another ERA.
You're going to do it again with her?
We're in the middle of it. Yep. Yeah. So, and we actually just got not great news yesterday. So she had her lining check for her ERA yesterday. And at transfer in her first ERA, at this point, her lining was like 9.5, like beautiful, trilaminar, gorgeous. And yesterday it was 6. And we don't know exactly why. Yeah. But it's just another, it's delaying the ERA, which delays a transfer. Right. Which also adds more money because now we have to do pay for another lining check. Right. And more meds. So
it's so
she's
daunting,
heartbroken and frustrated too.
Of course. I'm sure she wants this just as much as you guys do.
She does. She does. And I think, this is the first time in her life that she's faced with this kind of bad news with her body. And she's like, I'm getting a taste for how it feels to be you a little bit. Like, yeah, girl, like, it's really hard. And I want to keep her spirits up and but it is the reality of it is that she's not getting the news that she hoped for. And there isn't a definitive answer as to why. Mm-hmm. And there isn't a definitive answer as to what we do with the information that we have. For now it's, continue on the meds and hopefully next week is a different story. Dr. Amy thinks will be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like one roadblock after another. And then I'm on a separate journey right now to create more embryos. Right. And that's not been going well.
Right. Can we talk about the PRP procedure that you had before we wrap it up? I know you flew into New York, right, to do this. It's a platelet-rich plasma injection, right? So
it is.
So
it's essentially like stem cell therapy for your ovaries.
Okay.
So it's experimental at this stage, but there's some pretty good research behind it that shows that the process is beneficial for people like myself with egg quality issues, diminished ovarian reserve, primary ovarian insufficiency, etc. But essentially they take your own blood and they spin it in a centrifuge, separate out the plasma, and inject it back into your ovaries. So it's kind of like an egg retrieval process, but they're shoving things into your ovaries instead of taking things out.
Taking them out. Yeah, such a good way to describe it.
So I flew to New York to see Dr. Murphy at Rejuvenating Fertility Fertility Center, excuse me. And he's like Dr. Amy, like he's just wonderful, immediately, like so warm and fuzzy, hilarious. He does like crazy TikTok dances. And I felt very, very taken care of there. And so, I mean, it's like the same process. You don't have to go under anesthesia. With my anatomy, it wasn't an option really not to.
Yeah.
But I would recommend it for anyone that is doing it because I think this journey is painful enough.
Yeah.
And we don't need to add more pain. It is an extra cost, but it's not, I don't know. We already spend so much money. It's like $500. Like,
right. You're like, put it on my tab.
We don't need to be in pain. Put it on my tab. I don't need to be in more pain than I already am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're under for like 20 minutes. They, I think each doctor kind of has a different process, technique. Dr. Murphy injects at multiple points on each ovary. I think some other doctors inject at one point on each ovary, just like more into one point. Some doctors seem to want to do one cycle a month for 3 months, like during the life cycle of an egg. Dr. Murphy does more like one cycle every 2 to 3 months, because it does take a while to start seeing the benefits of it. Yeah. And it's not a guarantee. Again, not a guarantee.
Nothing. Yeah.
Like everything
so do you
needs
think
to come with a disclaimer.
Right. Do you think you'll do it again?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I went for my first follicle scan this past week after PRP. So it's been like 3 weeks and I had 0 follicles, nothing. But we don't really know why. I did just come off birth control and I also just recovered from COVID. So my hormones are stable. So we don't really know. It was, a fucking blow. It was my poor husband. It was his first time coming, finally to be allowed in the clinic. And he's like coming in for the first scan he's ever seen me do. And like, I've never had, and we had 0 follicles.
Oh God.
I jinxed you. It's like, shut up.
No.
He's not talking like me.
Right. Oh, honey.
But yeah, so it's been a hard week. Sure.
It's been a hard week. It's been a hard couple of years.
Hard life.
It's been a hard journey. It's been a hard road for you. And, I just want to say, I adore you. And I'm so glad that, you're part of the Rally family because everybody is there to support you. And you've been so open about all of this stuff. I think no one is more deserved. Like, you've done all the things and it's heartbreaking to watch something not go as planned, so I wish I could fix it.
I know. I mean, I wish we all had a magic wand. I know Dr. Amy feels the same way. Like, I wish I had a magic wand or a closet full of, she says, I wish I had a closet full of babies and I could just give everybody a baby.
Exactly.
But that's not where we're at. And, we just, I just keep pushing through and I don't subscribe to the just keep going. I think that's a little bit toxic, but I think as long as it feels right to keep going, then we will. Yeah. And for right now, it still feels like I have it in me to keep doing it. Yep. So I'm hopeful that our ERA lets us move to transfer ASAP, hopefully sometime this summer. And I am hopeful that at my next follicle scan in a couple of weeks, that my ovaries start to wake up and we start to see some results from the PRP, because that can take some time. And I still have hope. There's still hope, right? Like, I feel like as soon as I'm hopeless, and then let's just.
Well, like you said, I'm never one to say, don't give up or keep trying, or it's going to happen. None of that is true. I hate that term give up, because I don't think it's giving up. Sometimes it's just pivoting and, changing course. But, I just want to say, like, I love that you've always been very true to yourself and true to your heart and, following what you feel is good. And who knows what's going to happen? None of us do.
Yeah,
But I just know that, we're all sending you so much love and rooting for you. And if people aren't following you, they should be at Waiting for Baby Wonder, WUNDER, and following your story and just wishing you so much love. And I can't wait to see you in person, hopefully sometime this year.
I know, rally
but you'll
live.
Keep us, yes,
rally live, rally IRL.
Exactly. But you'll keep us posted, and everyone will follow along. And I just love you. I love you.
I love you. I am just really grateful to be on your pod. Been listening to it long before I knew you as a human being, and so it's like a little bit of a fangirl moment. No, I have, like, when I first started, before I had my Instagram, I had your podcast on my list.
Well, now I'm just like, here, you see me now. I just got out of SoulCycle and I look insane, and
I'm braless.
There's nothing to I'm not wearing a bra.
No,
there's nothing to fangirl about, but I'm glad you listened, and I hope it helped you.
Well,
and I know this is going to help so many
and
people.
I hope it helps. Yeah, that's at the end of it. Like, I exist because other people have helped me.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I can give back in that way. I think it's like a big circle help.
Okay, thank you guys so much for listening, and thanks again to Monica for sharing her story. We will continue to cheer her on and follow her on Instagram if you guys aren't already, at Waiting for Baby Wonder. I also wanted to tell you guys, as always, Fertility Rally memberships are here. They're available. We open the first week of every month. Everybody is welcome, no matter what you're going through. We are happy to have whoever, no matter what, at whatever stage you're at. So we just want to give you support. We have 4 support groups a week. We have a whole website full of resources and videos and things that will help you on your journey. As I've always said, this is the place I wish I had when I was going through it. The bond that we have with these members and this family we've created is absolutely insanely incredible. So check us out. DM me if you have any questions. Follow me at Infertile AF Stories, and follow us at Fertility Rally on Instagram too. And I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks.